Alright. I was still on, but apparently y'all were booted off. So I ended one and started another. This is kind of craziness. Maybe when we do part 2, I'll just do one at a time and end it after every episode. Because now, alright, I'm live right now and nobody's getting on for this one. Oh, there's 2 now. Okay, Christy's here. Yeah, I know. How about it? That's what I was just saying, Christy. Maybe when we do part 2, we're still going to try and finish this part 1, 8, 9, and 10 that we have. But when we do part 2, maybe I should do a live for each episode. And as each episode ends, we end that and then start the new one. And maybe we'll have an easier time without trying to do these long spans. So it's 8:22 right now. At 8:25, I'll hit play. We are on episode 8, and it is 32 minutes and 57 seconds in. Let's see. Can you see? That's where I'm paused there. So, yeah, could be the trolls reporting. It's really stupid. But yeah, it's 8:22. At 8:25 we'll hit play again, so maybe we can get this finished. There's 14 minutes and 15 seconds left in episode 8. I'm sorry, Maz, that it's so late there. And then, yeah, whenever we do part 2, I'll just do one episode at a time and end each live after the episode. So, and I hate all this making us have to wait a little bit because it's taking up more time and making this last longer. But it's still a work in progress. That don't know what I'm doing here. On a plus side, our Stephen Avery Project public page hit 180,000 people yesterday. We're now at 180,163. And then our little MAM gossip group that only had 30 people in it prior to part 2 coming out now has 8,840. Alright, we've got 1 minute. Again, we are on part 1, episode 8, which they have titled The Great Burden. 32 minutes, 57 seconds into it with 14 minutes and 15 seconds to go. We're almost at 8:25, and hopefully you guys don't get booted and we can get these last couple ones. Alright, ready? It's 8:25 and play.
The way it turned out, they got their way. Period. Manitowoc County won again.
Sergeant Andrew Colburn, one of the law enforcement officers accused of planting evidence, released a statement today. It reads in part, "I hope and pray that this verdict helps put to rest any suspicions or loss of confidence that this community
Just because a
may have
jury
felt towards our
rules one
department,
way, it doesn't mean
because
you're
I assure
innocent.
everyone that this
Hopes
agency
this
has some of the
puts to
finest law
arrest?
enforcement
No,
officers in the
puts to
country, and
rest?
it's
No,
important
it doesn't.
quote.
Because
Council Levin also spoke
you
with
were
Scott
looking
Puttick,
at
the
the
Stephen Avery's
RAV4 when you
brother-in-law.
called in
He
those
said,
grades.
quote, "What happened yesterday is the best thing in the world," and also he got what he got coming to him.
He got what he got coming to him. Really, Scott?
I don't know if this will make you feel good or bad, but first vote, a lot of times what jurors do is they go in and they say, okay, let's just see a show of hands where people are leaning right now. 7 for not guilty. The vote was 7 innocent, 3 guilty, and 2 undecided. That's the way they started off. Now, obviously, didn't stay that way.
The majority of us were easygoing and laid back, but there are a couple stubborn ones too. And it seems like stubborn people can sway softer people their way. Just, for some reason, psychologically, I think that's possible. I know there were 3 that were stubborn and, weren't participating, which made me feel uncomfortable being there. I deliberated for 4 hours with the jury and had to leave because of a medical emergency. And I felt there was some biased jurors that didn't, keep an open mind, and they had their mind made up, before the trial started, which I was pretty discouraged about myself. All I know is that a lot of us were weak, starting in deliberations, weak and tired. I don't know if it was a compromise, let's just
That's what the word is.
do something here so we can get out of here.
It was a compromise. That's why he was not
To me,
found
there's a lot
guilty
of
on mutilation of a
questions.
body.
I mean, to
because
me, I believe
The jurors
don't
who
know.
thought not guilty,
for sure. I mean, I
They
don't know
thought
for sure
if
who killed Teresa.
they
Or how it
voted
happened.
this way for murder
I mean,
and this
all
way
I
for
have is
mutilation,
statements from
since it's such a conflict
both
there,
sides.
that it would cause a mistrial.
But I don't
That
think anybody
obviously
will
didn't
ever
work.
know what actually happened.
Mr. Kratz is an experienced prosecutor. Mr. Kratz knows right from wrong. Mr. Kratz knows ethics. Mr. Kratz acted unprofessionally in this. I can't respect him for it. He's supposed to be seeking the truth. This wasn't seeking the truth, he was seeking a conviction.
Right.
And as a district attorney, he is responsible above everybody on this. He called the shots. He told the cops which way he wanted them to run. And he is probably the most culpable of anybody for this. And they gave him an award for winning this case. It's
What's going on now just proves, in my opinion, proves that how hell-bent they were on nailing him. How dare an Avery make County look bad, Now it's turned back around again. The county's making Avery look bad. And I think that's right where they wanted it to be. It played right out in their hand.
If it's all right with you guys, I'd like to have a talk about Brendan. Sort of a heart-to-heart on this. I don't know where your family is on this.
Deborah.
But as horrible as this is for a 44-year-old man, it's 10 times worse when you're talking about a 17-year-old boy who's not very bright and hasn't had a chance in life.
Dolores in
Now,
purple
I know we
sweatpants.
lost the trial, but I think now this community is a lot less certain that Stephen and Brendan did it than they were before we started Stephen's case.
Yeah, because we're getting more letters that he's innocent, 100% innocent, she says.
That has to help Brendan. And when the prosecutor stands up in closing argument to you guys and says all the evidence shows that one man and one man only is responsible for the death
Right,
of Teresa
Donald.
Hall.
Why was he calling in the plates?
One and one only,
Yeah,
meaning Stephen Avery.
yeah.
So how do you come in and prosecute a 17-year-old boy after you've stood up and said that?
That Mark and Tom, that Tom called up Scotty the other day. Scotty was supposed to get Barbara to tell Brendan to take the plea bargain.
Oh, that would be a
And
no-no.
it's 15.
That's what.
Did she tell you that
The
too?
plea is 15 years and then 15 probation.
So, I mean, seriously, Tom called Scott Tonic and said, tell your wife to make her
That's what she told me.
And what is Scott doing that kind of thing? He's never seemed to me to be on Brendan's side.
Yeah, right,
Well, he
Donald.
told
It's
Barbara.
just.
Barbara said there's no way.
Lead prosecutor Ken Kratz knows his job is only half done. Avery's co-defendant and nephew, Brendan Dassey, goes to trial on April 16th in Manitowoc County. That trial expected to last 2 weeks.
Oh, Brendan. Yeah, everybody thinks it's been reported that Colborne has the white jeep.
So victory for you with the change of venue of bringing the jury in from another county?
I don't know if you want to call it victory, but I think it's important that the jury be a fair jury, and I think this is a way to ensure that.
When's the last time you talked to Brendan?
We just did. I met with him actually twice in the last 7 days.
How's he doing? What's his...
He's fine.
Let's see.
He's just a very quiet person.
Do you anticipate discussing with the state the possibility of a plea agreement? Because that has been something prior counsel, I guess, had discussed.
In negotiation?
Correct.
They'll be offered, I'm sure, but once again, we're dealing with preparing for April 16th for trial, and that's the way we're going to continue to prepare.
When we actually got copies of motions and the file from the prosecutor, we realized that there had been some major missteps, and so we were not only going to be representing somebody, but we're also now having to go back and try to correct mistakes that are already made, and that makes it a little more difficult because you don't usually get more than one crack at it, and now we're kind of thrown in there to try to fix a problem along with trying to represent somebody.
Mark asked me, would I be interested in helping, and after he persuaded me a little bit, I said, sure.
I think Ray was being nice by saying I asked him, I pled with him to help me on this case, because it certainly isn't the case that you can just have one person, and there's not a lot of attorneys in Oshkosh that have a background dealing with homicides, and this will be my 5th or 6th homicide case, second trial, homicide trial.
At least they believe in him. That's the main thing. And I believe in him.
at that kid. You really think that kid is raping somebody?
You tell everybody the truth when you gotta get up on the stand.
Yeah, but look at all the stuff that they can use, though.
What's that?
All my statements.
What did you tell me? How did you get your statement?
Well, they kept on asking me the questions, you know.
Okay,
Until they heard what they wanted.
that's what you need to tell when you get up on the stand. That's what you need to tell them. The truth.
Alright, done with 8. On our way to 9. Jack is back. Yeah, absolutely, Deborah. He's still a virgin to this
Well, if
day.
it framed Stephen Avery, the question is Brendan's case a whole charade too? I mean, that's ultimately going to be the question. Is his jury going to believe that he confessed to a crime he never even committed, a murder he never committed?
No. There's no way Brendan did this in any way. Just not. When I used to talk to Brendan, he talked about video games, cats, his mom, wrestling. Favorite food was a pizza or a hamburger. I can't remember now. Just look up Free Brendan and see if I can find when I did the thing with Brendan on what he likes. This.
The two questions that the state is going to ask you to answer are these. Number 1, was he there? And number 2, did he help?
Hamburger.
Was he there?
There you go.
And did he help? Now, you're going to hear in this case that there was nothing unique about the March 1st interrogation of Brendan Dassey. We're going to show you start to finish the entire admission. I think it's about 4 hours long. Some of the details may be disturbing. And we have to give you those details. We have to play the entire statement for you. Your job at the end of this case will decide whether that statement ought to be believed. I'm going to briefly go through what Brendan Dassey says on March 1st. Brendan's version of what happened to Teresa Halbach. Brendan Dassey, in again sometimes graphic detail, will talk about approaching Uncle Steve's trailer, and before he even knocks on the door, he hears screaming. Brendan actually sees Teresa shackled with handcuffs and leg irons to the bed.
Here, I'll
and by
share
force,
this with you as I was looking
and
on
by
Free
violence,
Brendan.
he has
This is
sexual
an
intercourse
article
with Teresa Halbach.
that I wrote on there,
After
but
the
it
rape,
wasn't the Brendan
Stephen
thing.
Avery praises his nephew
Or the
and says that's how you do it.
question thing.
Then Stephen and Brendan discuss if they should and how they should kill Teresa Halbach. Stephen Avery stabs the victim, Brendan Dassey, handed the knife by Uncle Steve.
Donald, they went after
cuts
Brendan because
Teresa Halbach's throat.
he's Stephen's
We're going to be
alibi.
able to prove to
And
you
so they
in this
first
case
went to Brendan because they
things the
wanted
public didn't
him They were
Things
pushing
the
him to
police
say
didn't
something
know
that would incriminate
were
Stephen.
provided by
Not that
a young
they
man
had
who was
no
at
clue
the
that
scene.
Brendan was
Was
gonna
he there?
end up,
Absolutely.
since Brendan
Did he help?
had no idea what it was they wanted him to say. The things that he said made him
It
implicate
is
himself.
important to remember who is on trial. You'll hear days and days of evidence about Stephen Avery, his DNA, his blood found in the SUV, the bullet fragment found in his garage, the ignition key found in his bedroom. You won't hear the same evidence involving Brendan Dassey.
I don't think they saw that,
There
Callie.
won't be any DNA, no blood, no saliva, no sweat,
Sweat.
no hair, nothing. No science that's going to point you to Brendan Dassey. This is Brendan Dassey's trial, not Stephen's trial. It's about a 16-year-old high school student with below average cognitive abilities, a 4th grade reading level. It's about a shy introvert, socially inept, suggestible child. You'll learn that
Michael
Brendan will
Kelly
meet 2 highly
was the
trained,
one that worked for Len
intelligent
Kaczynski
adult
that
police officers.
wanted Brendan to
Times they
sign
cozy up
the
to
thing
Brendan to
saying
get the answer they
either
want.
he felt bad
At
for what
times
he
they
did
pull
or he
back
doesn't
from
feel
Brendan
bad
when
for
he's
what he
not giving
did,
them the
made him
answer
draw
they
the disgusting
want and they
pictures that
expect. It's like a new puppy
because
dog.
he's a pervert.
When he does what he's supposed to do, he gets a pat on the head and a treat. Good job, Brendan. Good job. Good boy. But when it's not what they want, we're leaving, Brendan, till you tell us what we want to hear. When you watch the videos carefully, you'll be exposed
Sherry.
to what they are.
I
think
don't
they're
know.
just
We don't
garbage.
know for sure the owner of the battery, or that KZ hasn't confirmed that yet. We're waiting for her filing on the 20th.
This first statement that you're going to hear is going to be from an officer who was up in Marinette and spoke to Brendan in somewhere between November 4th and November 10th. They actually spoke to him twice, so they may have both statements. One was
Brittany.
written, one was actually audio tape.
Last Monday, do you remember seeing this girl at all? I was at school. Okay, after school, you come home. You ever see this girl before? I used to go to
See, you hear that tick, 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 tick. They're questioning Brendan in a car.
You dropped out.
And they have that noise going, the turn signal noise, the whole time.
Did you remember that too, don't you?
You can find this audio to go listen to on StephenAveryCase.org. I've listened to it in its entirety before, and this tick, 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 tick. Oh.
It's either yes or no. I mean, I'm not putting nothing in your mind.
Now, tell us generally about Mr. Dassey's demeanor during the course of your interview with him.
I interview a lot of people, and Mr. Dassey's demeanor was different. When it came to specifics regarding Teresa Halbach, Stephen Avery, what happened on that day, he'd sit there, head down, withdrawn, motionless.
Yes, Donald, if you're talking
There was
about
a demeanor that
where
I
the
found
RAV4,
from all the years
are
of
you
training
talking about
experience
when
I
it
had
was
in
at the
dealing
salvage yard
an inner
or
struggle, a
when it was at
conflict.
the dam?
He was hiding something.
Because
It was not
I've
gonna
been
be a
told
10-minute interview as to
it
what he
was
saw.
at the dam for those 2 days
There
and
was
then it
something
was
more.
moved.
Detective, I guess you would agree with me that you have no degrees of any sort, education or training, to evaluate why an individual may react to you in the way they do. Is that a fair statement? You're not a psychologist.
I'm not a psychologist, that's correct.
And certainly not a child psychologist.
I am not a child psychologist, that's correct.
You had never been around this young man before, had you?
No.
You had no idea what he acted
Sorry,
like
Lily,
when
if
he
you're
was
on here
dealing
now.
with a teacher, for example.
No.
You had no idea what he acted like when he was dealing with
Correct. The
a person
dam
like yourself,
is on 147.
An authoritative figure.
Prior to our conversation, no.
Barb and Scott live on
You had no idea
Princeton.
whether
Is that how
you
you
were
say that?
dealing with
Which
what you might typically call
goes right
an average
into
teenager
147 there.
or a teenager with
Princeton,
any type of
147,
limitations. Is that a fair
dam
statement?
here.
Yes.
You know, they could walk to
And
the
you
dam.
acknowledge there's nothing at all in your report about his demeanor.
No.
So you're having to rely entirely upon your memory when you described his demeanor.
Yes.
Okay, and that's about 16 months ago, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I think he's doing a damn good job. Really good job.
Directing your attention to February 20th, 2006. What plans, if any, did you investigators have relative to speaking with other members of the Avery family?
In order to do a thorough investigation, we needed to go back and talk to everybody who had access or who lived on that property.
Right. Now, who was the first one of the family members to be re-interviewed?
By my recollection, it was probably Kayla, most likely. The interview started out about Steve Avery.
Kayla,
and Kayla
interviewed on the
was talking
20th.
about her relationship with Steve Avery. And just about at the end of that interview, Kayla, out of the blue, basically came out and told us that she had a cousin by the name of Brendan, and that Brendan was, quote, acting up lately. Brendan would just start crying uncontrollably. She also told us that Brendan had lost what she estimated to be about 40 pounds.
40
Based on
pounds.
this information, what did you decide to do?
We decided that...
Jack, I don't know
Again.
And when did you
what
talk
the
to Brendan
relationship
again?
was like before this. I can
February
only
27th
assume.
of 2006.
Um,
Myself and Agent
Brendan's
Fossbender
always
had went
seemed to really care for
Michigan
his
school
mother.
system, and that's where we met with Mr. Dassey.
But I'm gonna say she pretty much neglected him for whatever man was tickling her fancy at the time.
Mark and I, yeah, we're cops.
But we're dad. Oh, but I'm not right now. He's not a cop right now.
Brendan was no bigger than this table. I find it quite difficult to believe that if there was a body in that you would have seen something, a hand, a foot, a head, hair, something. Okay, no.
After this interview, we
Really?
contacted District Attorney Kratz.
Why would anybody believe that that was
to
a real
inform him
thing?
What we had learned from
They
that
were pushing
interview.
and
Mr.
pushing and
Kratz
pushing. You saw
requested
body
that
parts.
we
We know you
memorialize
did.
this
Be honest.
interview in a better
You saw
fashion.
them.
So,
And so
at
he
that
says
point, we made
told.
arrangements to go
Come
to
on.
Two Rivers Police Department, where there would be a videotape interview done.
Where was the defendant's mother, Barb Yonda, at that time?
We had spoke to Barb prior to the interview and indicated she had every right to
Carla's
be
in a
she wished
hoodie.
to be, and at that time she declined. She waited in a outer waiting area of the police department while we conducted the interview.
Now, after those two interviews that particular day, did you think that he was a suspect at that particular point?
Well, at that time, that's the first time Brendan places himself at the crime scene, places himself at the fire. In my thinking, at that point, he's still a witness, so he witnesses something horrific. tells us he sees body parts in a fire. I mean, so we're thinking he's a witness to something at that point yet.
Earlier, we heard from Special Agent Fassbender that the defendant and his mother were put up at the Fox Hills Hotel in Michigan. How did that come to pass?
First and foremost, any law enforcement's mind is safety. I mean, our job is to protect people. That's bottom line. Because of the information he told us, if there was somebody else that lived out there on the Avery property that would have found out and may have also been involved, we were worried for his safety, that they would somehow get to him and maybe harm him. So we thought, to be on the safe side, we needed to put him up somewhere off of that property.
Did you have any feeling as to whether or not the defendant had told you everything
that's
that
funny,
he
Heidi.
knew at that time?
My feeling was no, he didn't. That he knew more. Because every time we would talk to him, he'd give you a little bit more, give you a little bit more.
So then did you make arrangements
Deborah,
to re-interview the defendant?
We did, yes.
Brendan has a
That would
low
take us to
IQ,
March
so
1st. At that point, we
that's
contacted
why he is
Brendan's
not
mother
because
again,
of not spending
told her
any
that
time
we'd
with
like
him
to take
because
Brendan to the
she's not like that with all the
Sheriff's
boys.
Department
Yes,
so we could
Barb
do a
did decline
videotape
to be in
interview
the
of
room
Brendan to see what else he maybe had known,
a
see what
couple
else maybe
different
he
times.
saw.
So-
It's obvious that he knew more than he was telling us.
She plays, she didn't, they wouldn't let her in there. No, she voluntarily did not go in there for at least one of the interrogations. She let her boy go in there alone. See, they don't play the jury the whole thing. And people have tried scrubbing this off the internet. This whole interrogation with, alright, I'm just going to come out and say it, Brendan.
Discussion does not contain pertinent questioning of the defendant. I think we agreed to stop the tape at this particular point.
To the defense, is that true? All right.
Why did the defense agree to that? Ineffective assistance of counsel. What is wrong with these attorneys, these defense attorneys? Seriously, what kind of mother does that, Natasha? A shitty mother.
Videotapes today, it just shows me that the police were trying to get him to make up a story.
Is it
You know, it just comes across that way.
Well, he told me umpteen times that he didn't do nothing to her.
And there's
that
no
he's
DNA
still a virgin.
evidence.
Yeah, I know.
There's no DNA evidence to prove that he was in the trailer. There's no evidence of hers in Stephen's trailer.
Right.
There's no DNA evidence. And that was my biggest thing.
We're on
If she
episode 9,
If it happened
Heidi.
as Brendan supposedly said it did, there would have been DNA evidence in her blood or something.
That's just like Mark Wiegert on the stand today. He said that that I declined to go in with Brendan. I wanted to go in with Brendan. They wouldn't let me. So he's lying up on the stand too.
Do you know how many
No,
times
they told her
you
that it was best for her
or
not to
Agent
be in there,
Fassbender
and so
on
she
March
listened.
1st, the video one that we all watched here today, suggested to Brendan or told Brendan that he was a liar?
No, I don't know how many times.
Would it surprise you that it was in excess of 75 times
Whoa.
during the course of the interview
75
that either
times
you
you
or
said that he's a
Fassbender
liar?
said something to him suggesting or directly stating to him that he was a liar?
Dave.
Several times we told him we did not believe it.
Why is he going in there? Don't
Do you
go
know how many
over
times
there.
after
Get out of the house.
he was told
Right, Dave?
that he was a liar that he changed his answer?
No, Jack, they didn't. The jury never got to
I
see.
don't know
They
how
got
many
to my head.
Take a look at that middle paragraph. Fassbender is encouraging Brendan to say things that might make Brendan look a little bad,
in order for him to be believed.
He tells him to tell the whole truth, don't leave anything out, don't make anything up.
But it was in fact said to him, it might make you look a little bad or make you look like you were more involved than you want to be. It's hard to do, but it's good from the vantage point to say, hey, there's no doubt you're telling the truth.
Yes, that's what was said, part of breaking down those barriers.
But doesn't that encourage him to say something, regardless of whether it's true or not? Because someone in a position of authority is telling him that if you say something that doesn't help you, then we might believe you.
No, I wouldn't characterize it that way.
The police are
Of course you
actually
wouldn't
taught a
characterize it that
technique
way.
from this outfit out of Chicago, Reed, and they're taught
The Reed
to
technique.
elicit confessions, not get to the truth. The police believe that's the same thing. Confession and truth are the same thing, but it's not. The truth.
If you've
is
never
what
looked
happened.
into the Reed
A
technique,
confession
Google it.
isn't necessarily
REID
what
technique.
You accused him during the course of this interview of shooting Teresa, correct?
Yep, in which he was able to resist every time we accused him.
He was able to resist.
The truth of the
Look at that
matter
kid.
is,
Yeah, you're right,
you don't
Dave.
know if
This
it's right
this
and you
one,
don't know if it's
and you
wrong,
can
do
tell
you?
he really believes in Brendan.
Whether or not he shot Teresa,
correct.
I know he was there when she was shot. Whether he...
Well, let me stop you there. You know he was there because he told you that, right?
And because of the evidence.
What evidence says Brendan was there? Other than Brendan's coerced confession.
Shells, see everything that the government's paraded in here. None of these items have fingerprints, DNA, or any other scientific evidence connecting Brendan Dassey to the death of Teresa Hall. Yes or no?
That's correct. They had 5 days to clean up.
They had 5 days to clean up.
I thought Investigator Uyghur
Oh
did
my
a
God.
tremendous job. And we've been praising the police all along. We love the police. The other family obviously doesn't. So.
I know.
Yeah,
He
we owe
lost
a
his
lot
sister.
for the work that they've done.
You
for
helped
my
frame
family and
them.
for Teresa.
He never got into trouble before, at all. He was always a good kid. Even the school wants him to come back to school. And my son always tells me, blame it on Mark, blame it on Mark. And that's who I'm blaming.
Did there come a time where you re-interviewed Kayla Avery?
We did. Shortly after Brendan was arrested, actually. I believe it was March 7th of 2006. Kayla came out and told us quite a few things at that point. Basically, she indicated to us that Brendan had told Kayla that he had went and
Yeah,
got
that
the mail
Reed technique
and
is
went over to
disgusting.
Stephen Avery's residence and went into the residence and observed Teresa Hallbach pinned up in Steve Avery's bedroom. Kayla went on to tell us how Brendan described seeing body parts later that day or that evening in the fire behind Steve Avery's residence.
Good morning. How old are you, Kayla?
Kayla.
15.
And how are you related to Brendan?
We're first cousins. My dad is Barbara's brother, and Brennan's Barbara's son.
Okay, very good.
I don't see
I'm
Earl
going to direct your attention
there
to
right
a
now.
time in December of 2005.
By Barb, that's Blaine.
Did you have a
I don't know if that's
conversation
Blaine's
with Brendan
girlfriend.
about
But we can't
Teresa
see to the
Hallbach?
other side of Barb, so I don't know if Earl's over there.
All
But
right,
if he's
would
not
you
there to
tell
support
us
Kayla, that's pretty
about
shitty.
that conversation with Brendan?
Well, not in December, in November.
Okay, tell us about it.
In November, we were having a birthday party. he was sitting in our hallway, and he was just sitting there. One of my friends looked out the door and seen him crying, and then she came to me. And then I went out there by him, and I asked him what was wrong, and all he did was shrug his shoulders.
And then what did you ask?
And then I asked him if it was about the Stephen thing, and then he just shrugged his shoulders, and I was like, you know, you can talk to me, and then I just went back inside my room.
Tell us about the conversation you had with Brendan regarding Stephen.
We didn't have a conversation about it.
Didn't you tell your counselors at school about a conversation you had with Brendan?
Yeah.
All right. And you told officers Wiegert and Fossbender about that conversation as well, right?
Yeah.
These two guys right here. You recognize those two guys?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. You told them about a conversation you had with
I'm
Brendan
really
about
sad for
that
Kayla
bonfire
here.
and what was in the bonfire. Tell us about that.
I really don't remember.
All right. Now, Kayla,
This
did you give the officers
this
a
takes
statement?
balls.
Yeah.
I used to have a relationship with Kayla, well, like everybody. I used to have a good relationship with Kayla, and now she hates me. But
Kayla,
back
I'm
when I
showing
used
you
to
what
talk
has
to
been
her,
marked for identification as this exhibit 163.
remember she's a
Would you hold
15-year-old
that for
girl,
me, please?
14-year-old girl when this went on. She wanted
Take
attention.
my seat here.
And so, neglected children,
And is
also
that the
children who
statement that you
possibly
gave
have
to
been
officers
molested by their
Fossbender
fathers.
and Wiegert?
Yes.
Negative attention is attention. And so she
Does reviewing
made
that
up the
statement
story so
help
she
you
could get
remember?
some attention.
Yes.
All right.
But then once she
What
got
did
on here,
Brendan
she
tell
couldn't
you
go
about
through
the
with it
fire?
and recanted. She told me,
To pull the microphone a little closer.
because
so
back
we
when
can
I
hear.
talked to her, she had not spoken to Brendan. She didn't go visit him in prison.
didn't tell me
She didn't write him any
anything.
letters because she had no idea what to say to him
I kind of
because of this. And so I was advising her she really should
Tell
write
us
him a
what you're
letter
saying you made
and
up.
say she's sorry
Yeah, he said body
and
parts in there.
that it would
I
be
didn't-
okay
he didn't
and
see
she
it.
could
I
have her
didn't- he
cousin
didn't
back
tell
in
me
her life
anything like
again.
that, or he didn't see Jesus'
This
body or
it
anything like that.
it breaks my heart
And you also told the officers
because she
in a
also
separate
has the
conversation
low
that day
IQ
that Brendan had seen Teresa alive in Stephen's trailer.
And
that
she was
pinned up
manipulated.
in a chair.
Yes, but that's not true.
All right. So you're telling us you made something up to get Brendan into trouble.
Not really. I was just really confused about everything.
No further questions for this witness?
You'd heard some of the news about what happened to Teresa Halbach?
Yes.
It was kind of hard to miss some of that, right?
Yes.
Jody, has anyone come to me and asked me questions about what? Nobody's asked me questions other than doing these lives with you guys.
Investigators found pieces of bone and teeth on the Avery property.
According to Brendan Dassey's statements to police, he came home from school and went to Stephen Avery's trailer to give him his mail.
Dassey told prosecutors that his uncle Stephen had Teresa Halbach shackled to his bed, naked.
The complaint says they
So where would
continue
Kayla
to
get any
torture
of
and
this
manually
stuff?
strangle
Because they're
her.
saying,
They
showing
banged her
all
body
this
in
stuff
the
that was on the
investigators
news
say, throwing
before
bed sheets on top of the
5
fire
days
and
before
scattering
Kayla's
some remains
statement.
in a nearby gravel pit.
Did you know about that burn pit behind Stephen's garage?
Yes, I heard it on the news.
Read it in the news?
Yes.
Did you read that they found body parts in the burn pit too?
Yes.
When they spoke to you, did they ask you specifically about the burn pit and the body parts?
Yes.
So when you say you
Oh,
told them you saw
yeah,
body parts,
KZ
it was
doesn't
in
care
response
about
to a
me.
question they asked you about that?
Why am I breaking your heart, Deborah? I'm sorry.
Do you think there's some sort of talk in the family or collusion going on where these people are kind of rosying up their stories to each other?
I mean, I think, yeah, she's trying to protect the family member, just like
I think the rest of the family, or most families would.
But the seriousness of, I mean, if she is trying to protect Brendan by not telling the whole truth on the witness stand, I mean, that's pretty serious business.
I agree that it is very serious. She should be telling what she knows, but she didn't. She chose to basically lie on the stand, so that was her choice, and I think that came across to the jury, and there's really not much we can do about it anymore.
Except help plant the vehicle.
We believe Brendan's going to testify. If at the last second he says, I'm not testifying, that's his choice. But how Brendan stands up to cross-examination is anyone's guess. He might just roll up into a shell. I mean, I can see where he might just not even answer any questions. So that could be interesting. I mean, I don't think Brendan's the key to this, but the person you see in the courtroom every day, sitting there staring at his fingers, that's Brendan. That's not an act.
Right,
that really is Brendan. So, like I say, he's not a sophisticated
shy,
person. He's
sweet
not going to
kid.
put on a show for anyone.
Brendan Dassey, D-A-S-S-E-Y.
Morning, Brendan.
Morning.
How old are you, Brendan?
17.
Where were you living on October 31, 2005?
With my mom.
Who all lived in that general area?
Me, my family, Steven, Chucky, my grandma and grandpa.
Now, you said that
Who are they
Steven,
interviewing
that's
right
your
now?
uncle?
They're talking to
Yes.
Brendan.
And he lived where exactly in relation to your house?
Next door.
About how far from your house?
A few hundred or 200 or 300 yards away.
Yards or feet? Do you know the difference between the two?
Not really.
Okay. Was it farther than a football field away from you?
No.
Okay, so less than a football field away from you.
Yeah.
On October 31, 2005, was it a normal day for you?
Yes.
Now, did you go directly home from getting off the bus that day?
Yes.
What'd you do when you got home that day?
I play video games.
What did you do after you were done playing video games?
I ate something. Food.
Okay. What was Blaine doing?
He was in the kitchen holding his duffel bag.
Was he going somewhere?
Yeah.
Where was he going?
Trick-or-treating.
Okay, what did you do after you were done eating?
I went into my mom's room and talked to her about that she was I asked her, or she told me that she was going with Scott to the hospital to see his mom.
What did you do after your mom left?
I know, isn't it
Watch
awful?
TV.
Do you know how long you watched TV?
Until around 6 o'clock when I got a phone call.
Who called?
Blaine's boss.
Do you know for certain it was 6 o'clock? Or around 6 o'clock he called?
Yeah.
And how do you know that for certain?
Because he called after my mom left.
So sometime after 5:30 he called?
Yes.
What'd you do then?
I watched TV till I got another phone call at around 7.
Okay, and who called you around 7?
Steven.
What did Steven call you about?
He asked me if I wanted to come over to the bonfire.
What did you do when you got
Yeah,
down
I don't
to
like
the fire?
watching it either.
He told me that he wanted to pick up the yard, and we drove around in the golf cart and picked up stuff.
Okay. What kind of stuff did you pick up?
Wood, tires, an old cabinet in the van seat.
Now, is this stuff that's just lying around your yard?
Yes.
Did you throw them on the fire?
Some of it.
What'd you do with the rest?
Piled it right by the fire.
So now you're watching the fire for a while, right?
Yes.
What are you doing?
I only can recall that Stephen was talking to me about a phone call that he got from Jody.
When you got home, was anyone else home?
No.
Did you talk to your mom at all?
Yeah.
How'd you talk to her?
She called on the house phone.
What time did you go to bed?
After I got done talking to my mom.
Now, following October 31, 2005, did you lose any weight?
Yes.
How much did you lose?
Oh, God.
5-10 pounds.
Were you doing this on purpose? Or
No.
you weren't trying to lose weight?
Well, I was trying to.
Why were you trying to lose weight?
Because people were calling me fat, and because I thought that my first girlfriend broke up with me because of my weight.
You mean first ever?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen Teresa Hallbach before?
No.
Now, you obviously know that name, correct?
Yes.
When was the first time that you recall hearing the name or seeing her picture?
When she was reported missing.
And how did you come about hearing about her being missing?
My mom called. She told me to turn on the news.
So you watched TV?
Yes.
Yeah, I feel you, Dave.
I have nothing else, Judge.
Just to see the chains on him, it just makes me sick, because I know what kind of boy he is, you know. Glad I'm going to see him, because, you know, I mean, he appreciates me coming down, you know. I know that because I can see it in his eyes. He had a dream that when he was up on the stand and everything, and he says, just as it was ending, somebody came out with a black robe on, and they flipped the top out, and it was Teresa, and she was alive. And it was all a joke.
Mr. Dassey, let me play something for you, and I want to ask you a couple of questions, all right?
Okay.
Why didn't you just call 911? Or tell me at 5 o'clock when I got home? Were you afraid of him?
Well, yeah.
You have 1 minute left. What?
He's stronger than me.
Yeah, well, if you would have came home and told me.
Yeah, but then I thought that I would have to go to jail too.
No, you wouldn't have.
Yeah, for knowing about it.
If you wouldn't have gotten much out of it then, Brendan, you would have been more or less a hero. She would have probably still been alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, look at that one on TV where the alligator beats this one girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. That's all you would have had to done. Because I would have put you in the truck and we would have left.
Why didn't you tell your mother at 5 o'clock what you had seen earlier?
Because it really didn't happen.
Was Teresa Hallbach alive at 5 o'clock, Mr. Dassey?
She was never there when I was there.
Never where, sir?
I never seen her there.
Mr. Dassey, you told the officers that you were there and Teresa was alive.
That was a phone
Yeah.
call, Natasha, not. So they were playing
She
a
was
recorded phone
alive.
call.
But it really didn't happen.
You made that all up.
Yes.
You just happen to know Teresa's words?
No.
Well, how do you know that those words he said were Teresa's words?
How do you know what she said?
I made it up.
You made it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, he made it up.
You made up the part that you raped her?
Yes.
Yes.
You made up the part that she told you not to do it?
Yes.
To do the right thing?
Yes.
Yes.
And to tell your uncle not to do it?
Yes.
Yes.
You made that up?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Dassey, didn't you tell your mother in a phone call on May 13th that you had gone over to your Uncle Stephen's after school and before she came home?
Yes.
And on May 15th, she's asking you why you didn't tell her. Why didn't you?
Because it didn't happen.
Why did you tell her you went over there, sir?
I don't know.
You lied to your
Right,
mother
Dave.
as well?
Yes.
And you lied to the police?
Yes.
Are you lying? You're lying today?
No.
How is it that you were able to tell the police officers so much detail about what
Because
happened
they
to
told him the
Teresa
detail
if you
first,
weren't
and he
there?
was making this shit up.
I don't know.
What do you mean, sir? You don't know?
I could have got it out of books.
Out of books?
Yeah.
What book that you read ever had the story
I don't like his tone.
of a woman chained to a bed, raped, stabbed, and then her body thrown on a fire? What book was that, sir?
I believe it was called Kiss the Girls.
Who wrote the book?
How would he know that?
I don't remember his name.
James Patterson.
Mr. Jackson, please look at Exhibit 208.
Yeah.
You drew that, correct?
Yes.
He was made to draw that.
That's your depiction
Yes.
of Teresa Hallbach chained to the bed.
And do you look at the drawing, the way the chains and stuff were on that drawing?
Is that your
That's not even something you
Is
do.
that how she looked when you saw her on the bed in Uncle Stephen's bedroom?
I didn't see it.
You just made that up.
Yeah.
As I said, I got it out of that book.
Exhibit 210. You drew this as well.
I like that Brendan
Yes.
gave the little shade there back at this fucker. As I said, I got it out of the
Yes.
book. Good for you,
You made
Brendan.
that up.
Yes.
You told the officers on February 27th you saw body parts.
Yes.
You told your cousin Kayla you saw body parts in December.
No.
No.
She just made that up?
Yes.
Okay. How is it that you and Kayla both came up with telling and seeing body parts in the fire if you never talked about it?
She could have heard it on the news.
What newscast would that have been, sir?
I
Everyone?
don't know.
You're seeing body parts in the fire? What newscast was that?
I don't know, but I heard that they found bones.
How do you feel about this today, right now?
That I just want to go home.
That's all you feel right now? You just want to go home?
Yeah. What else is he supposed
And
to feel?
scared.
Do you feel sorry for Teresa?
Well, I know everybody feels sorry for losing someone.
What do you feel?
I feel sorry for him.
Why? Why?
Because I know how it feels to lose someone that you love.
And you're telling us today that you had nothing to do with the death of Teresa Halba.
No.
Why did you tell the officers that you did?
I don't know.
That's all.
Redirect. What was the part that you made up?
Well, the stuff that didn't really happen is the stuff that I made up.
And what stuff didn't really happen?
Where I was over there before 5 o'clock, where I helped him kill her and rape her and that.
Why should this jury believe you today?
Because I didn't really do it.
When the officers would tell you this is not your fault, how did that question or how
Zellner
did
just
that
tweeted
comment
again.
in the question
What is-
make you feel?
Always comes up on my
That I won't be taken
iPad, but
away
now
from my
I'm
family
using
and
it.
put in jail.
Oh, Christy just posted it.
No matter what you said?
Zellner says, let's see if I choose door 1, there is a sweaty
Nothing else,
podcast,
Judge.
and behind door 2 is a big hammer which hits my toe. Answer door 2 each time.
I was just
Hashtag
wondering if
making
he
a
was going to
murderer
tell the truth or
2.
not. I didn't
And
expect
then
him
it's
to.
a
I was hoping he would,
screenshot of Making a
slip up a little bit.
Making a Mania podcast. Ken Kratz has a lot to say about Making a Murderer Part 2.
I was
Thank you,
just kind
Christy,
of
for
a
posting it.
weird feeling seeing him up there. When a question I didn't have an answer to, he would say, I don't know. He said nothing about being suggested answers. He just said he didn't know why he answered things the way he did, so it's kind of foolish to be here when we have a taped confession.
You're going to hear an argument about, well, this is just good, proper technique. And that might be true if you're dealing with someone
Yeah, I know, Kathleen's
of average, normal, typical intelligence, demeanor, and memory. But this is not the typical young man. He might have been on this earth for 16 years at the time, but he didn't act like it, and he didn't think like it. And isn't it incumbent upon the government, when they bring these type of allegations, to be able to satisfy you beyond a reasonable doubt that the evidence that they're asking you to rely upon is in fact credible? Don't convict him because this was a horrible thing. Don't convict him because he couldn't pick his parents. Don't convict him because he simply doesn't know. And he's honest about it.
We are here, and we're here for one reason. There's no issue. There's no doubt. We're here because the defendant has a constitutional right to have us prove him guilty. That's why we're here. That's what we've done.
You didn't prove dick.
If you were 16 years old, if we were in a situation like this, what would be the most disturbing images for the experience if you really had experienced it? It would be those images of a woman pinned up, of body parts in a fire, of blood coming out of a concrete floor. Those are the things that would stick
But they didn't find any
in your memory. And I tell you that because you know what? That's why he confessed. Because he couldn't live with it. And it started to eke out in his discussion, little by little, to his cousin first, his peer, followed by all that trauma that winter, the loss of weight, the tearful sessions,
of weight.
sitting at a birthday party, and he's in tears because he's by himself. Why? It's not because he lost a girlfriend, it's because he couldn't live with it. That's why he confessed. People who are innocent don't confess.
Carla's in
The
a hoodie.
defendant confessed because he was guilty, because he did it. Just as Teresa's lifeless
I don't think she's
body
been
was
in court one
consumed
single
by that
time when she's
fire,
not
the defendant's
wearing a hoodie.
presumption of innocence
Just saying.
has been consumed by the fires of his own sexual desire. He wanted to know what it was like. There's only one verdict here, and that's a verdict of guilty. And we ask you to bring that verdict. We ask you to bring justice for Teresa. Thank you.
Members of the jury, you will not be swayed by sympathy, prejudice, or passion. You will be very careful and deliberate in weighing the evidence. I charge you to keep your duties steadfastly in mind and as upright citizens to render a just and true verdict. The verdict must be reached unanimously.
Brigade?
Really all about whether the jury believes that taped confession or whether they believe what Brendan Dassey said himself when he testified on Monday that he made up that whole confession. Who do you believe?
Yeah, that's right, Shelby. After 9 days of testimony, evidence, and arguments, the jury now has the case in their hands. They've only been deliberating for about 30 minutes. We, of course, have no idea how long it's going to take for them to come back with a verdict.
The judge simply gave them the case and did not give them any direction as to how long they should deliberate tonight. So all indications are is that we'll sit here and wait until we hear from them as to whether A, they have a verdict, or B, they just want to call it a night, go home, and start tomorrow morning.
Poor Brendan. I've never heard anything about Brendan's juror. Has anybody ever heard anything about Brendan's jury? Has anybody ever come out said why they would vote guilty? Look at all the cockroaches. Colborne touching him infuriates me.
Hey Brendan, how are you feeling? Are you nervous?
I really wish Colborne would stop touching him. Oh, there's Bobby.
I want to remind all those present that this is a court of law. The court recognizes the emotional nature of this case, its importance to all parties involved. However, vocal outbursts or displays of emotion will not be tolerated. Any violation will result in removal from the courtroom.
Oh, Colborne, right?
As to count one, we, the jury, find the defendant Brendan R. Dassey guilty of first-degree intentional homicide as party to a crime. As to count two, We, the jury, find the defendant Brendan R. Dassey guilty of mutilating a corpse as party to a crime. As to count 3, we, the jury, find the defendant Brendan R. Dassey guilty of second-degree sexual assault as party to a crime on October 31st, 2005.
Because they sent my kid away for life.
No idea what Carla was doing to Barb right there. Just leave her the fuck alone.
People, get the fuck out of here! God damn it! Give the fucking lady some peace! All you guys are in here, motherfuckers. Even me! This lady, get the fuck out of here already! You give the host box respect, but you won't give her respect? What the fuck's wrong with you? What's up, fucking kid? Why do you say so? I think you have our second shit on lock. I really do.
We're near the end of episode 9, Rebecca.
I can't imagine Brendan Dassey did the things he was convicted of doing.
We're not
I
on
just
part
can't
2,
imagine
we're
he
in
did
part
them.
1, Rebecca.
And I don't believe he did them.
We just heard Brendan's verdict.
There's a 17-year-old boy who's lost his life, in a real sense. He lost everything that makes life worth living and that life might have held for him. Again, the forces that caused that.
Yeah, we'll be doing part 2 sometime
I
next week,
understand.
or
don't
I gotta
think
look
are
at my
driven by
schedule.
malice. I think are just expressions of ordinary human feeling. But the consequences are what are so sad and awful.
I love you guys, and I know you're innocent.
Oh, God. This video is so creepy. Yep, here I am, Sean.
anyone. I know a lot of people. I feel a lot.
Mike called up Teresa's younger brother. Honorable Judge Willis, my family and I would never choose to be involved in a situation like this. We never chose to feel heartbreak, to feel loss. But Stephen Avery chose my sister Teresa. He thought only of himself. He chose to end her life. He chose to retain his sins inside himself and to point blame at everyone else. He chose not to hold himself accountable and ask for forgiveness, but to make a jury of 12 of his peers decide if he was accountable or not. They did that, and in doing so, have put you in the position you're in now. As God guided Teresa's life, let him guide your decision now. It's your choice. I ask that you sentence Stephen Avery to life in prison without parole. Thank you.
Mr. Avery, you have the right to allocution if you wish to speak now.
Well, Your Honor, I'm sorry for Hallbuck's family, Teresa Hallbuck's family, what they're going through, the pain, the hate they got. There's nothing else going to bring her back, you know. And my family, what they're going through, and everybody's friends, and the community, you know, it's hurting everybody. And for myself, Teresa Hallbuck, I didn't kill. I am innocent, what all it is. And I figure later on, I'll prove myself innocent. I'll take it from there. That's all I got. Thank you.
I have to say, Mr. Avery, that what particularly strikes the court as I was preparing for today's proceedings is the continuing danger that you pose to those around you, evidenced not only by the homicide in this case, but by its timing in your life.
Oh, Julie.
Whatever crimes may have been
That's
a
pretty
part of your
intense.
past at the time you committed this homicide, everything suggested that your life was poised to take a turn for the better.
See the guy sitting
However,
behind
despite
Stephen?
having the widespread sympathy of the public
dad
and
is one of
prospects for a
Stephen's
significant
jurors.
financial award, you committed the horrible crime that brings you here to be sentenced today. In terms of assessing your danger to society, the evidence forces me to conclude that you are probably the most dangerous individual ever to set foot in this courtroom. Your attorney has argued eloquently that the court should make you eligible for release at some point in the future. But from what I see, nothing in your life suggests that society would ever be safe from your behavior.
Why? He's never done
One of the things
anything.
that strikes me the most is that as you've grown older, your crimes have increased in severity. This crime was committed at a time when you were 43 years old. Given the trend of your crimes,
What trend of his crimes?
society has a legitimate right to be concerned that there is a serious risk you would reoffend and commit serious offenses if you ever permitted to be released from prison.
He broke into a bar and stole quarters and sandwiches.
Most of what ails our criminal justice system lie in an unwarranted certitude on the part of police officers and prosecutors and defense lawyers and judges
Julie.
and jurors that they're getting it right.
I can't
That they
imagine
simply
what
are
you've been
right.
through.
Just a tragic lack of
But
humility.
forgiveness is for you, not for them. So
participates
that's
in our
good that
criminal
you were able
justice
to
system.
get that peace.
We can all say that we're never going to commit a crime, but we can never guarantee that someone will never accuse us
Correct.
of a crime. And if that happens,
Lawyer. Don't ever talk to cops. Lawyer.
Good luck in this criminal justice system.
And there was Colborne putting Stephen in the car. Oh, I feel for your kids, Julie. All right, we're going to be going on 10.
We had a pretty good idea going into this prosecution, the kind of individual that Mr. Avery was. I think that what Mr. Avery did to Teresa Halbach should speak volumes
No,
as
his
to
trailer is still
the
there.
kind of person that Mr. Avery is. That's why I'm very happy that the citizens of Manitowoc County won't need to worry about Mr. Avery being on their streets anymore.
I never get when people do the Facebook message wave thing. I don't. Somebody's waving at you, wave back. I don't do that. Wow. So sorry, Julie, for what you and your kids have gone through. Look how beautiful it is there, though.
In the Penny Bernstein case, Stephen Avery went to prison for something he didn't do, and everybody was convinced that he did it. And lo and behold, hey, here's evidence beyond doubt that he did not do it. But in the Halbach case, investigative techniques, interrogation techniques are much better today than they were then. Around here, the feeling is Stephen Avery got what he deserved, and he is where he belongs, back behind bars for the rest of his life.
They ruined us. They ruined our business. I always thought Avery was a good name. They knocked the name right down to nothing.
This one's worse than the first one. There's no family here no more. I don't talk to hardly nobody anymore.
I don't think we're going to really. To get over this, unless he can get out.
I didn't think I was ever going to get arrested again in my life. And just boom. It took a lot to keep my sanity. I got to prove my innocence again. Just like my first case.
No, Barb really doesn't have a relationship with her parents. She hasn't in a long, long time.
And my whole family. When you appeal it, when you ain't got no money, then they give you appellate attorneys. The appellate attorneys, they gotta find a loophole. That's what they did. It's not legal.
We are here on the defendant's post-conviction motion. We'll note for the record, the defendant.
But I like you always you got the same judge, huh? That scares me. All we can do is hope for the best. But I got a hunch anything will have to go to appeals court. That's my. I hope I'm wrong.
No,
Ma's
Sean,
got
I
a lot
haven't
of
heard
hope for a new
anything.
trial.
They've left me alone.
The courtroom today was full of family and friends from both the Hallbooks and the Averys.
Today's hearing is essentially to ask the judge who presided over the trial to change his mind. Judge Willis expects to issue a written decision by December 1st. And Avery's nephew, Brendan Dassey, has also filed some post-trial motions. He'll have hearings similar to his uncle's beginning January 15th.
They always have everything ready for me when I come. It's such a small prison, you know, the parking lot's really small. They see my car drive up and they got everything out for me. Everything all set up, my badge out there. Everything all ready. It's a laugh. It's not good to be known that well in a prison.
I started writing to Stephen after watching the trial, thinking that they couldn't possibly convict this man. And then when the verdict came back, I just wanted to let him know that I supported him and I truly did not believe that he did it.
I talked to her a few times over the phone. And then she wanted to come to Bosabel to see me, so I put her on the visiting list.
I went down there with the thought that I could be a blessing to him, and it turned out that he was a blessing to me. He helped me through a lot with my husband's illness. My husband had dementia along with Parkinson's, and Stephen helped me through it. And he always tells me it worked both ways. We encouraged each other.
It was just a friendship at that time. But Sandy, she was there for me. And she believed in me. So I fell in love with all of that. And I fell in love with her.
Well,
several months after my husband passed away. My friends told me that there was more going on between Stephen and me than what I wanted to admit. And I remember when I went to see Stephen, I said, I've been told that there's more to our relationship. And he says to me, you mean you haven't felt it all this time? Those were his exact words. And I said, no.
She likes everything I like. Sandy's mostly an important person in my life and in my future.
At 85, they only took my brother away for something he didn't do, and they knew it. And now they took my brother away and my son. If Stephen would have did it, I think he would have confessed by now, if he did it. And he hasn't confessed. And that's what he did with the first one, when they sent him away for 18 years. I believe he's still innocent. And I know my son is innocent.
Brendan Dassey is now 19 years old and spending the last part of his teenage years at Columbia Correctional Facility in Portage. Dassey's new attorneys say he should have a new trial.
The jury did not hear a lot of evidence which would have explained to them why Brendan confessed to a crime that he did not commit.
I had heard about this case from the get-go. When Stephen Avery was arrested and charged with Teresa Hallback's murder, that was big news in the innocence world. When Brendan was arrested, that was immediately on my radar screen because it was one of the first video recorded interrogations in the state of Wisconsin, and I had been involved in the litigation that led the Supreme Court to require videotaping.
Steve Drizzen has made his life work studying false confessions. So I was very pleased that somebody with the resources, the experience and the credibility, especially on confession issues, took over.
I really like this Rob
That was
Dvorak guy.
huge. It was at that point I was willing to step in just to watch him work, do what they do, and to be a part of that.
What we argue in our post-conviction motion is that Brendan's pretrial attorney, Len Kaczynski, violated his duty of loyalty to Brendan. Every attorney in this country owes a duty of loyalty to their clients. It's part of the constitutional right to counsel. And what happened in this case is that Attorney Kaczynski took steps to essentially coerce Brendan into pleading guilty. And we argued that Attorney Kaczynski's behavior is absolutely intolerable, that no court in Wisconsin should sanction that kind of conduct, and that Brendan should get a new trial.
Yeah, Barb does not look good. Well, yeah, she's got to be dealing with an incredible amount of stress, and she's been living with Scott all this time. Watch Brendan's face when he's with Laura Nyrider. Look at him. She made him happy. And that makes, just, he got a little happiness right there.
Was it on March 7th or March 8th?
March 7th.
March 7th, okay. Did you talk to Brendan on that day, on March 7th?
I don't believe I did.
Okay. However, you did talk to the press, is that right?
Yeah, shortly after the appointment, the calls started rolling into the office.
Sure. I want to draw your attention to a news report from Channel 26 that says we have a 16-year-old who, while morally and legally responsible, was heavily influenced by someone that can only be described as something close to evil incarnate. Right?
That's what it says I said, but that wasn't me.
Is there anything about this statement that bothers you?
To say that we have a 16-year-old who's morally and legally responsible, that would in effect admit guilt, and that is something you should definitely not say.
Just for the record,
You think?
Mr. Kaczynski testified that he did not make those comments, and this exhibit is being introduced as impeachment evidence to demonstrate that, in fact, Mr. Kaczynski made those comments.
The court will receive it.
Attorney Len Kaczynski immediately lashed out at Stephen Avery.
We have a 16-year-old who, while morally and legally responsible, was heavily influenced by someone that can only be described as something close to evil incarnate.
And the next day, you make the statement that if the confession is valid and admissible as evidence, it would almost certainly result in a conviction. Right?
Correct.
Okay. You still hadn't reviewed Brendan's statement, right?
No, that's correct.
First statement?
Correct.
All right. March 10th appears to be the first time you went to see him. Is that?
That sounds correct.
Okay. And when you got out from that meeting, the press was there waiting for you, right?
They were there waiting when I got there.
Okay.
Yes, they were.
All right. I want you to refer to an interview with you from NBC 26. It says that Kaczynski says at this point he hasn't ruled out negotiating a plea deal in the case, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And how did that advance Brendan's case?
Because I knew that Brendan's family was watching these newscasts, and so in effect it was a message to try to get them accustomed to the idea that Brendan might take a legal option that they don't like. So part of the intended audience was Brendan
There's
Dassey's
Bobby
family.
sitting next to Barb.
And Brendan himself, about his only contact with the outside world was visits with his parents and the television.
Yeah. Now,
Brendan's best interest was to demonstrate that he had his own moral compass, and he wasn't necessarily the pawn of the Avery family, that he could make his own moral decisions as to what was right or wrong under all the circumstances. And part of that would be to admit being involved, in the death of Teresa Halbach.
during that meeting with Brendan on that day, he told you he didn't do this, correct?
I believe he did.
And he told you that what he said and what was in the complaint about what he said was not true, correct?
I believe he said that.
Okay. And he also told you at that time that he wanted to take a polygraph test.
Oh, correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
So Brendan is asserting his innocence.
Yes.
When he talks to you.
Imagine if you were in Brendan's position, a 16-year-old charged with one of the most serious crimes you could possibly be charged with. You're intellectually limited, you may not understand what's happening to you. You may not even understand the difference between your attorney and the police. And imagine that the one person who's supposed to defend you against the entire state of Wisconsin believes that you're guilty despite the fact that you're telling him that you're innocent.
What Jody said, what do I think about Bobby? I think Bobby killed Teresa.
Are you set to proceed?
We are, Judge. We call Michael Kelly, please.
Mr. Kelly, come on up here, take the oath from NBC. Sure.
Michael O'Kelly was an investigator that was hired by Len Kaczynski to give Brendan a polygraph exam.
Yeah, when Brendan gets out, he
Mr.
will live
O'Kelly's
with Barb.
role grew and grew in ways that, to me, highlight how Mr. Kaczynski was not interested in what Brendan had to say. He was only interested in getting Brendan to plead guilty.
When we were working on the
Brendan
plan,
could be an asset.
when Brendan's conviction was overturned,
At some point, you went out
it was
and
in the
started to gather
paperwork
evidence,
that he'd
right?
be living with Barb.
Yes. Okay. Let's go to exhibit number 64. And is that an email that you sent to Len Kaczynski?
Yes, it is.
April 27th?
That's correct.
Go to the paragraph where it says, I am not concerned.
I am not concerned with finding connecting evidence, placing Brendan inside the crime scene, as Brendan will be state's primary witness. This will only serve to bolster the prosecution. Brendan's truthful testimony may be the breakthrough that will put their case more firmly on all
I'm not going to be able to watch when he does his phony tears.
So your goal
bullshit.
is not only to get Brendan to confess, but to also go out and gather evidence to help the state in its prosecution. Correct?
That is correct.
Even if that evidence tends to inculpate Brendan.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Now, you're working for Mr. Kaczynski at this time, right?
Yes, I am.
And you're also working for Brendan Dassey at this time, correct?
Brendan is my client, yes.
Okay. And what you're talking about here is securing evidence that would be useful to the prosecution prosecuting Stephen Avery, and you make reference to Brendan's testimony.
That's correct.
This kind of cooperation between a defense investigator and the prosecution is unheard of. So in a sense, they were working for the prosecution. They were working for the police and working for Mr. Kratz to build their case against Stephen Avery, while at the same time damaging Brendan's chances. And it all came to a head on Friday night, May 12th. Len and O'Kelly decide that they want to visit Brendan as soon as the court rules
He wouldn't
on his
go with
motion to
Stephen.
suppress. If Brendan loses his motion to suppress, the confession is
I
coming
don't
into
know
evidence, and the case against
where
Brendan is going to
Brendan
be
would go.
much harder to beat. In the scope of the case, that's one of the most important decisions, and they knew
Maybe he might go in
that
some kind
Brendan
of
would be at his
the halfway
lowest
house,
point
assisted
when he
living
learned
type thing.
that confession was
But
coming
maybe he could go to Pete. Or his brother Blaine.
All right, stop there. This is a picture of a ribbon
my God,
hanging on a tree.
Fucking ribbon.
Oh, sure, yes.
It's late, I can swear now, right? Your kids are all in bed. And the Oscar goes to...
in the background.
Okay, and that has...
I apologize.
All right, now, you laid those things out prior to Brendan coming into the room, right?
Oh, yes.
All right, and this was part of your plan to get a statement from Brendan, correct?
To get admission, yes.
I want to refer you to your
Why
email
are you trying to
Mr.
get his
Kaczynski
admission
on
if
May 9th.
you
Would you
represent him?
read from the third paragraph?
Brendan needs to be alone. When he sees me this Friday, I will be a source of relief. He needs to trust me in the direction that I steer him into. We need to separate him from fantasy and bring him to see reality from our perspective.
Was all of this done pursuant to instructions from Mr. Kaczynski?
Oh, sure, yes.
From the first shot where you see this table where he had this picture of Teresa Halbach and the church and the ribbon, what a production. My God. The extent and the level to which he went to coerce this confession. It was just amazing. You know, it's everything that you talk about, all the methods to get an unreliable confession. It's clearly where his heart was.
Tell me how you start that email to Mr. Kaczynski on May 9th.
I am learning the Avery family history and about each member of the Avery family. These are criminals. There are members engaged in sexual activities with nieces, nephews, cousins, in-laws. Customers or their relatives unwittingly become victims of their sexual fantasies. This is truly where the devil resides in comfort. ribbon. I'm sorry.
He's just thinking about that blue ribbon that he put there.
No good in any member. These people are pure evil. A friend of mine suggested this is a one-branch family tree. Cut this tree down. We need to end the gene pool here.
You saw things that I think have never been seen
That's
before.
Michael Kelly.
I can't think of another case where a defense attorney and his investigator plotted to pressure their client to plead guilty to a case that in which he was expressing his innocence.
That tape was somewhat disturbing, I think.
It was extraordinarily disturbing, and Michael O'Kelly is a seasoned investigator, and I believe what he did to Brendan Dassey traumatized him.
So the first question you have to ask yourself is, do you want to spend the rest of your life in prison? So is that a yes or a no? I can't hear you. Okay. Do you want to get out and have a family someday? That means you have to cooperate with me and help me work with you.
O'Kelly is using these tools to break Brendan down, to get him to confess again. And he finally succeeds.
Draw a picture of
I don't know if he was friends with the Hallback family. I think I've heard that.
But draw a big size so we can see it.
And the first thing he does is he picks up the phone and he calls Len Kaczynski.
Hi, Len. Hi, Len. This is Michael Kelly. I'm with Brendan right now. Oh, quite well. Quite well. He's given a detailed statement.
And then they arrange for Brendan to be interrogated again the next day on tape by the very same police officers who manipulated him before, without Len Kaczynski being present.
I was told by your attorney that you wanted to talk to us.
So, on May 13th, these investigators,
Rebecca, you might be
they
right
think
there.
they're going to get gold.
You know, because he brought
They
that
think they're
ribbon
gonna
to
get
the
a
church
confession
and
from Brendan
put it up there and
that is
took a
gonna
picture of it.
be a game changer.
Don't make me come back
It's
there
going to
and
have
hide.
even more details. It's going to lead them to new information, and that Brendan is now going to be their star witness. But what do they get instead? They get crap.
At what point did you put her cell phone and camera and purse and stuff in the burn barrel?
I did.
Okay, who did?
Probably Steve.
No, not probably. Who did? If you know, you tell me. You were over there.
Steve did.
Did you see him do it?
Yeah.
No, honestly, yes or no? Did you see him do it? Don't lie about it. If you did, good. If you didn't, good. Did you see him do that?
This is somebody who obviously doesn't know what to say, and is obviously
4:08 a.m. Wow,
the
man.
officers and his defense attorneys
I don't
want
blame
him to
you.
say.
We're almost
And
done.
the
We're
resulting
in the
story
home
is
stretch.
widely different than what he said on March 1st. What's happening is he's just generating more and more conflicting statements and essentially muddying up the state's case.
So they come up with a plan, and the plan is to persuade Brendan to call his mother later that evening and to talk to her about his role in the offense.
When are you going to tell your mom about this?
Probably around next year.
Because you've lied to her so far, right? Don't you think you should call her and tell her?
Yeah.
So manipulative. Oh.
Probably tonight.
Don't you think she'd like to hear it coming from you rather than from me? Maybe you do that.
Yeah.
Where do you do that?
At the time that you suggested to Brendan that he call his mother, you knew that calls from the jail were recorded, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay. And you wanted Brendan to call his mother and to repeat what he had told you, is that right?
Yes, for several different reasons.
It's 10
One of those reasons
PM
was that
here.
you knew that if he did that, that conversation could be introduced against him in court, is that right?
No, it was not our thought at that time. Our thought was we were dealing with Barb constantly. She would be on our side, she'd be with us to help us, and then she would be mad at us, things like that. We wanted Barb's cooperation. That was the purpose of that.
Did you suggest to Brendan that perhaps, if that was your objective, that he might ask his mother to come to the jail to speak to her about that?
Did I ask Brendan to do that?
Yeah.
No.
Basically what you said here was that unless he called her that night, that you would tell her. Isn't that right?
That's true, yes.
And so Brendan complied. He went back to his cell and he called his mother on the recorded prison telephone. And he said to her, Mom, Michael O'Kelly and Mark Wiegert think I'm lying. They told me if I say I did this, I won't be doing life in prison. And I might even get out to have a family. Those are things that didn't come from the police. Those are things that Michael O'Kelly told him. So Brendan is explaining to his mother, my defense team is telling me I need to say I did this. And that's what he tells his mother. He says, Mom, I did some of it. And she says, Brendan, how could you possibly have done some of this? I saw you at home at 5:00 p.m. on October 31st. You weren't over at Stevens. You were at home. And he says, oh, well, I went back to Stevens after I saw you. That's important because the state used that May 13th recorded telephone call against Brendan at trial. And it would have never come about, absent the actions of Attorney Kaczynski.
They weren't supposed to use those statements. There was a gentleman's agreement that this was a lost weekend because Len Kaczynski allowed Brendan to be interrogated without counsel. But they used them, they got greedy, and they used them in a way that was very powerful and persuasive to the jury and almost ensured that Brendan would be convicted.
And when he got back at 5:00, he could have told his mother. As we know in the call, and as she rightly noted, I would have put you in the car and we would have left. But he goes back. We know he goes back
Brendan
because he
had
tells his mother.
been a part
in those
of a
phone
rape and a
conversations
murder, and then saw his
10 weeks
mom
later, on May 13th and May 15th,
afterwards.
that he went
You know,
back, that
because
he was there.
when she's coming home from work at
They
5
set
p.m.,
Brendan
this
up.
would be after the rape and murder.
Who's
He would
there
have
for
looked at his mom and started crying.
He's all alone. And
Barb would have known something was wrong.
that's the main reason why he deserves a new trial, is because the actions that his own attorney and his investigator took so damaged his chances of ever winning this case that he needs a do-over.
Judge Willis, he wasn't on my side at all. I knew I wasn't going to get no play from him. He thought I was guilty anyway. I'm just waiting for the next step, you know.
Yay, Ryan Foley.
I have copies of the text message.
I'm not going to comment to that.
Seems highly inappropriate.
Did she say I did anything ethically wrong?
Yeah, she believes it was sexual harassment.
Is there a reason you're taking pictures?
Yeah, this is a news event.
No, this isn't an event, Ryan. This is a non-news story, okay?
Why are you so worried about the story getting out if there's nothing here?
Oh, come on. It's my reputation, and once the genie's out of the bottle, just the allegation can ruin a prosecutor. What does that mean to you, Mr.
Poor sweaty sweat sweat.
Obviously not. It's not you, it's not your family, it's not your reputation.
Did you send these text messages?
I'm not answering that question.
The governor of Wisconsin is calling for the resignation of a state prosecutor after the prosecutor admitted sending more than 30 sexually suggestive text messages to a domestic abuse victim whose case he was handling.
The scandal remained quiet until last week when the Associated Press revealed the text messages. I'm the attorney, he wrote. I have the $350,000 house. I have the six-figure career. You may be the tall, young, hot nymph, but I am the prize. Are you the kind of girl that likes secret contact with an older, married, elected DA? The riskier, the better.
When I heard about Ken Kratz and his sex scene, I thought, Ken Kratz, that's his ethics.
I intend to continue to serve as the Calumet County District Attorney.
Stephanie Van Grohl reported the harassment to the police,
Jody?
who
Yeah.
turned the case over
Everybody
to the
did the
Wisconsin
opposite.
Department of Justice. They chose to take very little action against him.
New details tonight about a text messaging
Now,
scandal.
we are learning that Kratz took steps to try to keep that case from going public.
I guess the Justice Department knew about a year before they put it out. They stick up for their own people.
However, it did take a year for this to be made public.
At least 5 women have come forward.
The Office of Lawyer Responsibility closed it out without doing anything.
What is going on in the Wisconsin Department of Justice?
I had gone from being one of the most respected DAs in the state to vilified and hated and altogether forgotten.
There's a huge disconnect there. I mean, the judge did remove Kaczynski because he had allowed Brendan to talk to the police without him being there. But if he did that, he should also have suppressed the statement that was used to
Oh,
impeach
don't be
Brendan.
sorry for swearing.
To recognize
I've
on
got
the
the
one
worst mouth
hand
ever. I'm not
that a
offended by
lawyer is
language.
ineffective, and then allow the fruits of that ineffectiveness to be used to the admission of another confession. I mean, it's a problem. It's a serious problem.
I'm tired. But it's not 4 a.m. here. It's only 10 p.m.
Brendan tells me they treat him okay. I mean, he plays games with the other inmates. And he does his schooling. He's trying for his high school diploma. I seen him yesterday. It was nice. We played 61 games of Uno. I think he misses everybody. Talks about babysitting, that he misses doing that. Talks about playing his Nintendo.
They should be out of there. They don't belong in the prison. Put the ones in there that done something, not the innocent ones. Them cops should sit there for a while, like about 50 years, and see how they feel and how their family feels. We still love them.
Yep. Always.
I always feel like they're getting me in a gut again. You only got maybe a second there to realize you lost again. And you got another step in the Supreme Court and you get your high hopes up. They should have did something. They should hear it because the case don't make no sense. You always get let down by the court system.
Of all the years that I've known him, this is the roughest I've seen him. He just seems hopeless and depressed, I say. I don't think he can cope anymore. Basketball is a prison for violent criminals, and Stephen has never been violent in prison. So the least they could do is move him. Getting out of where he is. I think that's what he wants right now. And of course, eventually out the door.
Is there anybody sitting at this table that thinks that regardless of what procedural chances he still has, he has any substantive chances?
Certainly, if we could do a test today that was scientifically acceptable and valid, that actually proved there was EDTA in those bloodstains, that would be newly discovered evidence. That might be the ticket to a new trial.
It's interesting, the parallels with Steve's first case.
Right.
What ultimately freed him was newly discovered evidence where the technology advanced to the stage where you could test the DNA. And in this case, we're looking for technology to do the same kind of thing, to show that the evidence at the original trial really did not mean what the state was arguing it meant and what the jury believed that it meant.
Or some other newly discovered evidence. Other people who know something. It may be somebody on the jury, it may be somebody who knows something that happened with the jurors. I've still got my suspicions about whether something improper occurred during the deliberations.
I gotta tell you, I mean, if I'm gonna be perfectly candid, there's a big part of me that really hopes Stephen Avery's guilty of this crime. Because the thought of him being innocent of this crime and sitting in prison again for something he didn't do, and now for the rest of his
Yep,
life
we're
without a
still
prayer
here. Almost done.
I can't take that. And Brendan Dassey, they had a demonstrably untrue confession from a seriously compromised kid. Scares the hell out of me.
I don't know what the other jurors are feeling, but I know what I feel, and it is hard. It is difficult for me. Even though I didn't make the final decision on the verdict because I wasn't there, it's still difficult for me. I constantly think about the trial. I feel bad that, I feel
Big
terrible
Friday
that,
night.
Teresa is gone and life was taken. But I also, on the other end, feel bad because Stephen Brendan's life was taken from him, basically. People tell me to just forget about it, it's over with. But in my mind, it's not over with because, I don't know, I think that deep in my heart, with all the evidence and all the things I know, that whoever did this to Teresa is still out there.
I always think about Stephen's feelings, how he's hurt.
Dolores in her golf cart. I should post that picture.
I'm out in the open. It's a little easier to go through that
You guys probably
than
haven't
when you're
seen
in a
this
cage.
picture.
That's all he's got to think about. I'm sticking by Stephen. And I'm sticking by Brendan. I picked this house out for Stephen when he gets out. So it's got somewhere to live. Looks like a pretty nice house. It's got fruit trees in it. Half of his life is gone, and he spent half of it in the prisons for something he don't even do.
And I asked for all the files. I'm trying to fight for a good trial.
Ew.
But this
I
time,
need to edit
I'm
that
doing
picture.
it because this is my life, my freedom.
Ew. Okay.
Now I'm trying to look up cases and the law in the law library.
He has to go in without a real good education, go into the law library and try to go through all the books he can to find any examples of what he might use in his case.
These are all of the transcripts and case files of Stephen's 24 boxes full. Steve's mom brought them from the prison, and he got copies of everything to go through his case bit by bit.
I had a couple boxes myself, and the other ones were stored in a room. So when I got done with some boxes, then I could put them back and get some more boxes. And that's why it's so hard to work on a big case like this. You can't have it all when you need it. Sometimes in the middle of the night, I think of something, then I have to go search. Sometimes you go, say nuts. But something just bugs you, and you gotta do it. You gotta get up and do it. Again, I wrote out the Innocent Project. If the Innocent Project would help me again, I wrote them a few times. But they won't take my case. But if that blood, if I can prove that it came from the courthouse, that one book get a good laugh to do it. Found my 974, 06. Now I'm trying to get the judge to give me a lawyer so I don't screw up. I'm still learning, so I don't know everything.
I gotta give him a lot of credit for what he's doing and hope and pray that it works out.
You might just figure I'm doing it all.
Can't find that picture. That's Crivets.
Little rabbits? Huh? They're my good raw, slice them thin, put a little salt on. Radishes, onions, lettuce. There's lettuce over here. I know you like lettuce. Bugs and all. Tomatoes, peppers, carrots, asparagus, cucumbers, cabbage.
My dream right now is get out, buy me a lot of land, and live up in the woods. Make me a big pond so I can fish. Do my garden, have my animals. So I don't have to go into town and buy food. I have it all right there. I guess Sandy wants to get married, so I'll get married. And now I'm my wife, and my mom and dad. I'm going to take care of them. I really don't need nothing else.
Today, a decision from the state Supreme Court on one of Wisconsin's most notorious murders.
Yeah, it won't hear a Manitowoc man's arguments for a new trial. Brendan Dassey was sentenced to life in prison for the 2005 slaying of Teresa Halbach. The killing drew extraordinary attention because Dassey's uncle, Stephen Avery, also was convicted in the crime. The Supreme Court won't hear the case after the appeals court upheld the verdict.
It's the function of post-conviction courts and appellate courts to make sure that the system works the way it's supposed to. That where failures start to happen, that they do something about it.
I've always believed it would be very difficult for Brendan to get relief in the Wisconsin state court system. This case was just too much of a heater. So we recently filed a federal habeas petition to try to get his conviction vacated.
Everybody has a right under the U.S. Constitution to a loyal attorney. Everybody has a right under the U.S. Constitution to not have a coerced confession used against you. Because these are rights under the federal Constitution, we are asking for federal review of these claims.
We are hopeful that we'll have a better shot in the federal court. The fight goes on.
Dear people in the world, my name is Brendan Dassey. I am writing to let you know that I am innocent of the rape and murder of Teresa Halbach. I was interrogated by the police when I was 16 years old. The investigators kept telling me over and over they knew I was involved. They also told me if I just said I was involved, they would help me and that I wouldn't get in trouble. I trusted them. I told them a lot of things that weren't true that day. I thought I would go back to school afterwards, but they arrested me. I haven't been free since that day. I've missed out on high school graduation, and the chance to get a girlfriend or a job. My brothers have gotten married and had children. I wish I could have a family someday too. I am innocent of the rape and murder of Teresa Halbach. Please help me if you can. Sincerely, Brendan Dassey.
Stephen didn't call on Wednesday night when he was supposed to. And then on Thursday, I heard the operator say a call from Waupun Correctional Institution. And my thought was, I don't know anyone in Waupun. Who's calling me from Waupun prison? And then it clicked just like that they moved him. He wanted us to wait, his mother and father and myself, wait a couple weeks before we came and visited, because he wanted to get acclimated a little bit to the institution and know what the schedule was and stuff like that. And so we have waited, and now it's time. This will be the first contact visit that I have ever had with him. Ever since I've known him, 7 years, I have never been able to touch him, hug him, hold his hand. It's just exciting to know that his parents will be able to hug their son. To the fact that he's actually at the table and can talk with us instead of behind glass.
Yeah, I know.
Dry mouth. I think I'm nervous. A little bit anxious. This feelings. Oh no, I see it already. That didn't take even 45 minutes. So where do we park?
What a goddamn place. This is terrible.
Okay, turn this way and turn around.
I can't turn on you, can I? No.
We did it before.
Well, I gotta do it again.
Okay, I took him park there. That's close enough.
What have you got in here? The kitchen sink?
Wait a minute. I got the wrong card. I had my Sears card. That wouldn't work too good, would it?
No, that wouldn't.
Huh?
Yeah, Ellen is funny.
When we left, no, I just hung on to him. And it was so good just to be able to do that. We asked him about a job here, this is a working prison. His response was, I've got too many things to do.
Yeah, the
He's got to
dead
spend all
sister
his time
thing
in
is
the law
so
library.
stupid. She's preying on his
He just can't let
love
it go
for
until
family.
something big happens, something is done.
I hope the day comes where he's freed, his name is finally cleared, and his parents are still there. It's so important to his mom and dad that he gets out before they go.
Until it happens to you or to your son or daughter
I
or someone
used to
else
feel
you love,
sorry
it's
for
easy
Barb,
to
too.
ignore all of the problems in the system. But I can guarantee you that once it happens to somebody you love or to yourself, it'll be very clear.
Everybody seems still to be playing the normal, conventional conservative way, which is that if the system has the right lawyers and if the lawyers do the right job, then justice will be obtained for Stephen Avery. And I mean, at what point do people start questioning that whole framework?
I would hope that the people who watched the trial and saw really what kind of evidence the state did and didn't have, I would hope that those people don't give up on Stephen Avery. Because this may take a while to right this wrong. It took 18 years last time.
Yeah, right, Caroline.
I certainly hope it doesn't take another 18 years.
The age of 59 is when Brendan could be released.
They think I'll stop working on it. It'll be forgotten. That's what they think. But I want the truth. I want my life. They keep on taking it. So I'm gonna keep on working. Even if it's wrong. I ain't gonna give up. When you know you're innocent, you will keep on going. The truth always comes out sooner or later.
Oh boy. So, there you go. We're done with part 1. So I'm not going to stay on here blabbing, because we've been on forever today. I'll see what my schedule is, and then we'll pick some days, and we'll start on part 2. So I am now going to lay on my couch like a slug, no longer having to sit in this computer chair, and probably pass out. So thank you everybody who joined me today, and I hope everybody has a good weekend. Yeah, 8 freaking hours, Christy, I know. How about it? All right, see y'all.